Hot Springs Village Inside Out is a closer look at the greatness of Hot Springs Village, Arkansas and the surrounding areas. People, places, experiences. Hot Springs Village is one of the most beautiful places on earth. Join me, Randy Cantrell, and my co-host Dennis Simpson as we engage in weekly conversations to explore Hot Springs Village Inside Out. Today's show is brought to you by Central Arkansas's favorite radio station, KVRE. Find them on the dial at 92.9 FM. Stream them live at kvre.com. Today's show is brought to you by RE/MAX of Hot Springs Village. The award-winning RE/MAX of Hot Springs Village is the largest real estate office inside the village with over 30 full-time agents and support staff. Visit them to learn more about this beautiful place to solve your real estate needs. Call them at 1-800-364-9007. Find them online at explorehsv.com. They are RE/MAX of Hot Springs Village at 1-800-364-9007 or online at explorehsv.com. HSV Inside Out is also brought to you by Ike Eisenhower State Farm. Ike and his award-winning team have been serving the insurance needs of folks all around Hot Springs Village since 1998. Ike has qualified for State Farm's President's Club, Chairman's Circle, and Hot Springs Village Insurance Agent of the Year. Call Ike Eisenhower State Farm today at 501-984-4100. That's 501-984-4100. Find them online at ikeeisenhower.net. Call them today for all your insurance needs because, like a good neighbor, Ike Eisenhower State Farm is there. So she tells me that she's just sick and tired of being sick and tired. She's just got too much clutter in her life, and so she wants to declutter. And this is a ridiculously hard exercise for her. And she's going through a closet that is completely filled with boxes of just stuff. She doesn't even know what's in these boxes. And she pulls them out, and these are things that go back her now grown children who have kids of their own. These are things that her kids produced, schoolwork and school projects and little art things that they did when they were little kids that she has not looked at in decades. And she's like, I don't need to hang on to this stuff. And she's looking at it and she's thinking how tough this is, but at the same time she says, I'm looking at this and I'm thinking, I'm going to select just a few pieces that I know I will absolutely cherish. And she had a little box that she selected that she described as being, less than a foot square. And I'm going to put only stuff that will fit in that box. And that will be my keepsake box from my kids' work when they were really small. And so she proceeds to do that and gets 4 or 5 big boxes reduced down to that one box. And she's describing how liberating this is for her. But at the same time, she's also describing how painful it is. And that's just one area. I mean, she's not a hoarder, but she admits that getting rid of stuff is really, really hard. Let's talk about this. Welcome to my back porch. My name is Randy Cantrell, and I'm glad that you have clicked play. I hope you'll be a subscriber over at YouTube. HSVinsideout.com, that's the website. Let's talk about decluttering. Let's talk about paring down our possessions. This comes up pretty frequently because as we hear from you, a number of you, in fact, the majority of you that we hear from are people who are outside the village, people who have not yet made the village home, but you're thinking about it. And if you look at real estate, and you look at the houses here, you will find, like any area, you'll find big houses with a lot of square footage and a lot of space and a lot of bedrooms and a lot of bathrooms. But more often than not, you're going to find homes that are probably smaller than the neighborhood that you're coming from, unless this is going to be maybe a second or third place that you've kind of retired to, and you're still looking kind of for the ideal. I'll use myself as an example. Rhonda and I decided about 3 years ago that we would sell a home that we had lived in for over 20 years. This was not a massive home, but this was a home that was, just under 3,000 square feet. And it was the two of us. We have been empty nesters for over 20 years, and it's just too big. Just didn't need it. We felt like the time was right. And so our plan was we were going to move into an apartment, which we did, not far from where we had lived, stay kind of in the general neighborhood because all the grandkids are there. And we already knew that we wanted to split our time between Texas and Hot Springs Village. At the same time, we were buying a house here in Hot Springs Village, and the house here was going to be about just under 2,200 square feet, which, by the way, is probably a little more on the larger size. You'll look at Realtor.com and you'll see a lot of houses, and I don't know if this is statistically valid or not, but it's really common to see houses between 15 and 1,800 square feet. It seems to me, just as a casual observer of real estate, that that's kind of the sweet spot for most couples, and retired couples or even younger couples. I've mentioned before that we had a couple that was under 40 that moved down the street, and I think that house is 1,800 and some odd square feet. So in Texas, of course, everything is bigger. We know this to be true. The houses in the neighborhood that we had lived in forever and a day, 3,000 square foot house, 3,500 square foot house was not uncommon. Here, I think it's less so. Yes, you can get it, but this also, it has a benefit, a huge, huge benefit, not least of which is the cost of living, the cost of the house itself, the cost of maintenance and upkeep and utilities and all that, but also the benefit of forcing us to get rid of our stuff, our clutter. And while that may be difficult for many of you, it wasn't really something that our hand hadn't been forced. We had the space. And like most people, whatever the space is, you'll fill it with something. And we certainly had. One of the things that I knew would be tough for me were books, because I had thousands of books. Now, at this point in my life, I had mostly amassed nonfiction, business, management, leadership, biography kind of books. These books had served, there was a comfort. They had served as a muse. I could look at the bindings of them. I could see the titles. And even if I hadn't pulled it off of the shelf in a long time, I knew what the spine looked like. I knew the title. I had memory of having read it the first or the fifth time. And they were comfortable. I was comfortable being surrounded by books. And I had made up my mind, this is probably going to be the toughest part for me, so I'm going to do that one first. And so I began to thin the herd. My approach was probably not all that typical, because I would read about people who were decluttering, and I would read books by decluttering experts, and people would talk about, well, look at something and try to figure out how much joy it brings you. Well, that didn't work for me. That seemed like a ridiculous barometer, because I could look at something and maybe feel joyful right now, but 2 weeks from now could care less. So joy just was not a good measurement for me. I rather approached it, and I termed it practical minimalism, because I've long been fascinated for probably 20 years with what is now called the minimalism movement. Now, if you are a true sparse minimalist, you've got one table, you might have 4 chairs, you've got 4 plates and 4 place settings for company and whatnot. I mean, you just have the bare minimum. You go into a room and it's sparsely furnished. That just didn't feel practical for me, especially not at this stage of my life. So I termed it practical minimalism, in that I just wanted to keep the things that had high utility. And if they didn't have high utility, then it meant that they had rather priceless sentimental value. I'm a hopeless romantic, and I can be hopelessly sentimental. And so I knew all of this was probably going to be a bit of a challenge. I don't suffer the emotional attachment that you often hear about people who kind of hoard do. Getting rid of things is not difficult. But when you've been surrounded by thousands of books for as many years as I was, I thought, this is probably going to be the tough one, so I'm going to tackle this one first. I initially set out to just keep books that had real significant meaning for me, and or books that I knew I wanted to hang on to because they were valuable for me, and they would be difficult, if not impossible, to replace, because a lot of these were out of print. It didn't quite work out that way, because I found myself getting rid of things that I would have told you when I started, oh no, I'm not going to get rid of that. It began to be a game of how much can I get rid of. My initial goal was to use that Pareto's principle, that 80-20 rule, to get rid of 80% of it. Well, I eclipsed that. I probably got rid of 90% of most everything that I owned, by the way, not just books. So I had decided that I was going to donate the books to the local library. I could have gone to some used bookstore and I could have gotten pennies on a dollar, and just, to me, it wasn't worth it. If I'm going to go to the trouble to box them up and haul them somewhere, then I'm going to donate them. And so I donated about 3,500 books to the local library. It was boxes and boxes and boxes and boxes of books. Now, for us, it was like, I'm not moving these. I'm not moving these, and I'm not about to go into a house in Hot Springs Village and fill this house with some of this clutter. And that was our decision. You do you. But this was what we decided to do. I had looked at things, and the books, like I said, that was object number one. And I can't tell you how liberating it felt. It was unbelievably freeing. I don't know that I've had any feeling quite like it, of just now knowing that I'm not burdened with all of this stuff. I don't have to fret about it. I can more easily know where everything is, because my list of everything is way smaller, way shorter. And so my book collection went down to, I'm guessing, I haven't counted them, maybe 100. Now, initially I thought, okay, if I bring in a new book, then I'm going to get rid of one, which seemed like a good thought exercise. I haven't done that because, well, I haven't added any. The books that I've added were Kindle. That's digital, so that's easy. For me, joy was not the barometer, but utility was. And the way I approached it was, how often do I use this? How often do I lay my hands on this? Do I use it at least annually? And if I don't use it annually, then is there some exception for this thing? And I really didn't get past annual. And my bell cow kind of an item was flannel shirts. Every winter, I love flannel shirts. Well, I don't want to go buy new flannel shirts every winter. That's stupid. If I've got flannel shirts, and I've had flannel shirts for years and years and years, I'm hanging on to the flannel shirts. I would look at the flannel shirts and like, okay, I'm going to wear these every winter. I'm not going to wear them in the summer. I'm not going to wear them in the spring. I probably am not going to wear them much in the fall, but in the winter, I'm going to wear them. So I'm keeping them. Then I would look at the flannel shirts and I would think, do I wear all of these? Well, there were one or two, and I'm like, I can't tell you the last time I wore that one. because for whatever reason I don't like it. It may not have fit very well. It may have had some rip or tear, whatever. Then I would get rid of that. So I went through the whole closet with that. Now, I know what we all do. We've got the clothes that we wear. We've got the clothes that we used to wear. We've got the clothes that we hope to one day fit back into to wear. And the closet just becomes bloated. I did the same thing with shoes. And I'm not a shoe guy, but I realized I got more shoes than I thought I had. And I never wear these. And I never wear those. So out they went. And I did that with everything. I got to the sentimental things, and for me, photographs, that wasn't going to be difficult because I wasn't going to get rid of photographs. They're flat, they're small, they don't take up much space. You can scan them and digitize them onto your computer, onto a hard drive or some storage device. I'm not getting rid of those. That seemed idiotic. Little knickknacks. If you go to randycantrell.com and you care to kind of take a tour inside a place that I call the Yellow Studio, which is where I do most of my work from, I've got little knickknacks. Well, the original Yellow Studio, which was in this house that we sold, the grandkids come over and they just like all this stuff. And I got some cool stuff. You know, and little hands like to grab onto these little things, and they're just cool. They weren't high utility, so they violated that rule, but they did not violate my sentimental rule. And they didn't violate another rule, and that was inspiration. They serve as a bit of a muse for me. I've long talked about, and you probably haven't heard me because I don't know that I've said it much here, but I've owned an acoustic guitar for as long as I can remember. I know I've owned them since I've owned them at least for 45 years. I have a rather nice acoustic guitar in a hard shell case, and I don't play the guitar. I don't know how to play the guitar. I've never learned how to play the guitar. I know way more about the guitar than a non-playing person should, but I love the guitar. Turns out what I mostly love is I love to hear people who can really play it. But it serves as a muse for me. I just kind of like knowing it's there. That is easily the most expensive muse kind of an item that I have. And I've got other things like that. I've got some art prints from Ballard Street. Ballard Street is my favorite cartoon. And I've got 4 or 5. They're called Glycolic prints. They look like oil paintings, but they're actual prints. And I bought these years ago, and they are framed and they hang in the studio. I've got a couple of photographs, old photographs that are colorized that hang in there, not of people that are family or anything, just cool photographs, historic stuff. And then I've got all these little knickknacks and things. And some of these things I guess you could describe as toys, and other things are just little caricatures and things. And I love them. I love them. And these are things that sit on shelves. I don't get them out and play with them. I don't do anything. They just sit there. I look at them. It's much like this view that I'm looking at out my back porch here. It's inspirational. And so those were things that I would put in the priceless category. Now, I did go through that collection of things, and I thought, some of these little knickknacks I don't care. So I gave them to the kids if they wanted them, and if they didn't, then I got rid of them. But the stuff that I really valued, and the stuff that had some significance for me and gave me some special kind of a feeling, I don't know if joy is the word, but again, I look at them as a muse. So I keep those things. So by the time we moved to the village, which was back in March, I think I had done a great job of going through the inventory of my stuff, and it never made the trip here. It never made the trip here, and it didn't make the trip to the place that we moved to in Texas either, because I wanted to keep things high utility. Technology, and I had plenty of technology. I've been doing podcasting for years and years and years and years, and that stuff, I did get rid of some of that stuff. I sold some stuff. I turned it into cash, and then I turned that into newer technology. So this wasn't an exercise of just throwing stuff in a dumpster. I did what I think most people do is, okay, what am I going to do with it? If I'm not going to keep it, there's this keep pile, and then there's this get rid of pile. Okay, now when we get rid of it, how are we going to get rid of it? Are we going to donate it? Are we going to sell it? Are we going to trash it? Those were the three divisions. The majority of stuff, because most of my stuff, quite frankly, as far as volume went, was books. I donated books, donated clothing, probably did sell. I think I sold on eBay, some shoes, had some, kind of nice running shoes and things that were barely used that was able to get a little bit of money for. I mean, why not? I'm a capitalist. If you can make some money, make some money. But books, I knew I wasn't going to get anything, and I would rather donate it. Clothing, the same thing. Donated the clothing. And that was a huge part of it. The one area that I still need to do a little bit of work on is I had stuff from all of my years of coaching kids, and I had plaques from youth teams that go back 25 years ago, and I just couldn't bring myself to get rid of those things. So I got one 27-gallon bin, those kinds that you can get at Home Depot. I've got one bin of this full of hockey coaching kind of stuff that I just haven't been able to. I didn't even want to go through it, so I didn't go through it. I got it out of cardboard boxes and I put it in one of these tubs and did that. True story. I've got in my garage, and this is a shout out to Dennis's brother-in-law and sister who built this for me. I asked them to, and they built me. It's a 20 bin. It's great. It's wonderful, and you really ought to get them to build you one. It holds 20 of these 27-gallon storage bins, the kind that you can buy at Sam's, and it holds 20 of these. It's 5 across and 4 up, and it's great. It is great. It's terrific. They're not all full. That's the good news. A lot of them are. That's the bad news. But the good news is we got plenty of storage. So for those of you that are looking at moving here, you are probably looking at a house that is smaller than the house that you've come from. That may not be the case, but I think for a lot of you, that seems to be the truth. And so it's, well, how are we going to go from a 3,500 square foot house into an 1,800 square foot house? And the answer is you're not, unless you get rid of some things. When it came to furniture, boy, we got rid of some furniture too. I grew up, and many of you probably did too, where, I don't know, my grandparents didn't have just an abundance of furniture, but man, my house, it was like every wall had something on it. There were chairs everywhere, sofas everywhere, coffee tables everywhere. There was just a lot of furniture. And I just was really sick of it and didn't want it. I wanted high utility furniture as well. Now, we didn't go and buy all new furniture. I think we bought 2 recliners. These are some of the first recliners that we've ever had, by the way. And they're great. I love them. Some rockers out here on the back patio, this little table that I'm sitting at. But everything, when it comes to furniture for us, is high utility, meaning we use it regularly. It's not something that, okay, well, we don't ever use that. We can't remember the last time we used it. For us, that was the barometer. I think my best advice is you do you. Figure out what serves you best and don't be deluded and think that everything has got high utility, because you and I both know it doesn't. And you will be liberated. You will feel absolutely free. For me and Rhonda at this stage of life, and retirement does have something to do with it, even though we're not retired, we are past retirement age. We're both 67, but we both still work, and that's because we want to, and we're able to. So I don't ever envision myself not working and not earning some income. But at this stage of life, I just didn't want to be burdened with the stuff. I didn't want to feel weighted down. I didn't want to feel dragged down, and I was feeling that way. And as we get older, I told my son, I said, well, you can thank me now for having done this, because now you're not going to have to go through all this stuff. We lost my mom back in April, and just closets full of things, and a house filled with things. And of course, my dad didn't have a clue where to start. And so my sister and I kind of began to try to help him through that. So there is that practical reality too, of thinking about the people that we may leave behind, who have to clean up our mess and take care of all of this stuff that we, for whatever reason, may have struggled to part with. Whatever exercise you need to put in, whatever work you need to put in order to free yourself, I'm just going to cheerlead you and tell you it's worth it. Just give it a go. hsvinsideout.com, that's the website. Thanks for watching. Click subscribe. Click that thumbs up and that like button too.
Thanks for watching and listening to Hot Springs Village Inside Out, a weekly podcast starring Hot Springs Village, Arkansas. Visit the website at hotspringsvillageinsideout.com.